Hi everyone. So for our environmental management systems report, we chose to investigate and research Ecobee. So who is Ecobee, or what is Ecobee? Ecobee is a Toronto-based company which produces smart home monitoring and thermostat solutions. The company first began with the design of a smart thermostat with a mission and a vision focused on building a more sustainable world. So Ecobee's mission and vision statements. Their mission statement is to provide energies with smart home devices to help conserve energy, save money, and reduce their environmental impact. Now, Ecobee's vision and values also reflect the commitment to focus on making smart technology available to everyone. The more homes using the product, the more they're doing to enable positive environmental actions. So Ecobee's home heating thermostats are designed with the goal of providing environmental benefits by limiting consumer energy consumption through the use of these smart home monitoring systems. So positive environmental impact. These home devices are made easily accessible through the Ecobee app, which allows consumers to control their energy consumption for wherever they may be. This smart technology is quickly expanding worldwide in efforts to reduce the consumer's household carbon footprint. So our environmental commitment reflects the commitment to fulfill and comply with environmental legislation, federal, provincial, and municipal, that covers, to identify environmental aspects and impacts during the life cycle of our products, prevent pollution through procedures and controls, and as well to continually improve the EMS through regular review. So this is the basis of our environmental management system, also known as the Deming cycle. So we're going to start with the plan section of our system, which involves identifying environmental aspects and impacts, monitoring legal requirements, setting objectives and targets for the business, and developing performance indicators as well. So our environmental aspects. Environmental aspects of our company play a key role in determining the objectives and targets of the company, as Ecobee enables positive planet actions of its consumers. Sustainability of all operating procedures is also addressed. The general environmental aspects are addressed at each stage in the production of the home devices, where related products, services, and activities are outlined. The aspects are determined through a life cycle assessment, which enable the analysis of the related environmental impacts, which I'll be going through. And here's just a rundown of the associated processes and activities of our company and their associated environmental aspects. So what are Ecobee's environmental impacts? These are the majority of the environmental impacts that were determined using the LCA method during the life cycle analysis. The percentage of total environmental impact based on each life phase were also determined as well, and this is in the report that we wrote. This data will be used in building operational controls and also used to develop management strategies, which focus on mitigating impacts within these identified phases right here. So Ecobee has identified 4 main objectives and associated programs with their environmental management system. First one is to observe yearly reductions in raw material waste and post-production of electronic waste. This is a major one. And its associated program, is to observe an annual reduction of raw material and also post-production waste by a minimum of 5%. So that's an annual program that we have in place. The second one is to reduce the harmful effects associated with disposal of technological products through the refurbishment and resale of electronic devices. So Ecobee will participate in programs with various e-waste recycling initiatives within Ontario and within Canada to promote and encourage the end-of-life recycling of tech products. And the third objective is to acquire and collect open source energy consumption data in a transparent and cooperative manner from both clients and partner companies. And they'll do this by implementing a voluntary data program, which ultimately enables open source data access from customers' thermostats. And this is how researchers can also gain access to this important data as well. And the last objective is to promote environmental awareness and sustainable energy and electricity consumption amongst all employees, stakeholders, private and public organizations. So regulation compliance. These are some of the predominant federal and provincial regulations. There are municipal regulations as well, but these aren't on the slides here. And so provincial regulations, there are about 7 that we have determined that we need to be compliant with. The first is the Resource Recovery and Circular Economy Act, also known as WEEE, which is known as the Waste, Electrical, and Electronic Equipment Program. And this is a provincial directive within the Resource Recovery and Circular Economy Act, which ultimately aims to prevent and reduce electronic equipment and electrical waste within the province. Another one is the Ravine and Natural Feature Protection Bylaw, and this aims to keep Ecobee compliant with pollution prevention measures focused on monitoring and mitigation impacts on Ontario's natural heritage and environmentally significant areas. Some of the federal regulations are extended producer responsibility. This is a major one. So this is known as EPR, and it assists the recovery and management of products post-production. So it seeks to make manufacturers fully responsible and accountable for the full life cycle of their products, including disposal and recycling costs, which is very important. And lastly, the Canadian Environmental Protection Act. This is a regular auditing and approval program by the National Recycler Qualification Program. And this just ensures requirements for post-production are safe regarding the management of e-waste. So now for the life cycle assessment. Ecobee is determined to sustainable practices by adopting the ISO LCA method in determining alternative strategies to mitigate environmental impacts. Ecobee uses this method to evaluate the company's environmental performance during the full life cycle of our products. As the smart home technology sector is rapidly growing, the results and interpretation of this life cycle assessment are needed and are crucial for sustainable growth. The innovation of new products is dependent on the results gathered from this life cycle assessment. So this assessment primarily focuses on studying environmental impacts based on our inventory analysis, impact assessment, and their interpretation in relation to the overall goals and scope of the assessment. An inventory analysis focuses on the inputs and outputs of a product, where the impact assessment reflects the potential impacts associated with those inputs and outputs. So the goal and scope. The goal of the comparative life cycle assessment is focused on determining life cycle impacts of Ecobee smart thermostats when compared to a conventional, say, Honeywell heating thermostat. The scope of the study is to determine environmental benefits of these smart thermostats over these conventional heating systems. So the functional unit is the study of a single Ecobee smart thermostat operating for 1 year in a Canadian household. So the study looks at impacts of both heating systems within sort of a cradle to grave model. Therefore, the system boundaries investigated in the study include extraction of raw materials, manufacturing, product use, and end of life. So for the purpose of the study, the system boundaries have been categorized into these 3 stages: production phase, use phase, and end of life phase. So the goal of this impact assessment is to assess potential human and ecological effects of each life cycle phase that are identified in the inventory analysis. Now this model, the 6.0 GABI model, used in the inventory analysis, categorizes data into impact factor groups and shows comparisons for each system. It was noted from the software that the production and use phase had the most significant environmental impact, and this will therefore further require management through the ISO model. So again, that's the production and the use phase primarily that had the most impact. This inventory assessment shows that smart thermostats have been designed to reduce conventional thermostat components by actually up to 60%, so quite a significant amount. Ecobee's strategy includes recycling their waste footprint and increasing the use of overall recyclable materials. So the LCA interpretation. The LCA study has identified the use of the smart thermostat to reduce load impacts during all life cycle processes when compared to these conventional thermostats. Ecobee's smart thermostat produced a lower production of emissions across all of our stated environmental impact factors. From the results, it was therefore determined that conventional thermostats require actually 80% more electricity for its operation over a 1 year period than the smart Ecobee thermostat. Now, the GABI model that was mentioned before has enabled Ecobee to determine the use phase as its most significant life cycle process in terms of energy use and emission generation. Now, environmental impacts have been outlined and quantified at each phase of the life cycle assessment right here, which addresses the need for monitoring and measuring through the EMS, which we'll be going through in a little while. So we're done with the plan section. Now it's time to go over our do component of these systems, which involves assigning responsibilities, training and awareness of all employees, communication and documentation protocols, and also emergency preparedness response. So this is a brief overview of the management roles and responsibilities. So here we have a company CEO, Stuart Lombard, and then we have an environmental management representative, and this is Kevin Van Dirk. Now he's who acts to ensure standards are being met within the ESO, and also predominantly reports back to the CEO, Stuart Lombard. He's very important within the process. Now, there's two main branches that are run under Scott and Chris. And the first one, the technology and innovation branch right here, will predominantly manage all programs related to the production and the sale of the refurbished and recycled devices, as well as education and testing for the employees regarding waste management. And the communications branch will be responsible for managing objectives related to the promotional and educational awareness and education for everyone involved, and also to clientele. And also they're responsible for the collection of company and clientele data for data analysis and report making. So training and awareness. All staff will receive training to ensure appropriate measures are taken to assess safe handling and disposal of toxic and hazardous materials, chemical handling and storage, as well as other protection activities. And all these staff will also be required to complete annual spill response training sessions and testing, as well as an e-waste management training module, just to ensure that employee knowledge of significant environmental impacts is adequate. They must receive a mark of 85% to demonstrate health competence. So communication protocols. Ecobee's internal and external communication program involves the consistent maintenance of relationships with all stakeholders, partner companies, and company employees. So our program prioritizes an all-inclusive approach to our problem-solving and management program by ensuring effective bottom-up, top-down, and also lateral communication amongst departments, so everyone has an equal say in the protocol. So documentation. Ecobee's documentation system will act to establish and maintain up-to-date information about the core elements of the EMS system. All documents must be legible, dated, easily accessible, controlled, and oversight will also be managed by the senior environmental management representative.